Can constant witty insults actually hide a deeper affection? And can malicious lies really tear apart a seemingly perfect love? All based on maybe just a moment of deception.
It's a potent mix, isn't it?
Welcome to the world of verbal sparring, romantic intrigue, and some pretty profound misunderstandings and much ado about nothing.
Mm.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into one of William Shakespeare's most, well, vibrant and clever comedies. It's a play celebrated for its sparkling dialogue, its really engaging characters, and honestly, a surprisingly modern take on relationships.
Indeed. Written around, what, 1598, 1599?
Yeah.
And then thankfully preserved for us in the first folio in 1623. Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah.
Has captivated audiences for, well, centuries now.
Yeah.
And it's a play that resonates far beyond just the theater stage. It appeals, not just to students and scholars, but really to any curious lifelong learner interested in those timeless human stories.
Right, the sort of intricate dance of courtship, maybe.
Exactly. And the remarkable psychological depth of how we connect, or sometimes how we spectacularly misconnect with each other.
And what I find truly fascinating is that Shakespeare kind of gives us a hint of that depth and, a good dose of his famous wit right there in the title.
Ah, yes.
Much Ado About Nothing. It isn't just about making a big fuss over, trivial stuff. It's also a rather clever and, let's be honest, delightfully bawdy pun.
It really is. You see, in Elizabethan slang, the word nothing, well, it was a euphemism.
For female genitalia, right?
That's the one. So the title, when you really get it, could be read as A Great Fuss About a Great Hoo-Ha, or maybe even more bluntly, A Lot of Fuss About Fannies.
Ah! Yeah, it's brilliant.
It is. And this playful double entendre, it immediately signals those underlying adult themes. It's pure Shakespearean genius, really, seamlessly weaving these kind of crude jokes that would appeal to everyone with really profound insights.
So appealing to the nobility and the folks in the pit.
Absolutely. The educated and the, well, historical accounts sometimes call them the dirty farmers. This layered humor wasn't just for laughs. It made his plays relatable, accessible, and it definitely helped ensure they'd stick around.
And crucially, it points right to the central role that female honor, purity, sexuality, all of that stuff plays. It's the driving force behind so much of the drama, the conflict.
The entire plot really hinges on the perception of a woman's nothing, doesn't it?
It's remarkable foreshadowing, this whole idea of making a big fuss over something that turns out to be, well, nothing at all. Or maybe something entirely different than it first appears. So let's unpack this core story. Let's get into the major turning points.
Okay.
Our scene is set in sunny Messina, Sicily. Beautiful place. The atmosphere is celebratory. There's relief in the air. Don Pedro, the Prince of Aragon, arrives with his victorious army fresh from battle.
Mm-hmm.
And with him are some key players. The young, well-regarded Count Claudio and the notoriously quick-witted Benedict. Their arrival doesn't just signal the end of a war. It immediately sets the stage for new romances, renewed rivalries, and, as we'll definitely see, quite a bit of mischief. Some well-intentioned, some not so much.
Absolutely. And the play then just masterfully weaves together two distinct but sort of parallel love stories. Each takes its own path towards romance, and importantly, each is tangled up with its own kind of deception.
Right. So the first one.
The first, and maybe the more traditional narrative, centers on Claudio and Hero. Claudio, this young soldier, he's proved himself in battle, and he is immediately smitten by Hero.
Leonato's daughter.
Leonato's daughter, exactly, the governor of Messina. She's presented as this, well, ideal woman of the era. Obedient, virtuous, beautiful, pretty much the Elizabethan ideal.
Which was, of course, highly sought after. For a guy like Claudio, she's the perfect match on paper.
Definitely. And you really see how marriage functioned back then, don't you? It's a far cry from our modern idea of, love at first sight leading straight to marriage.
Oh, completely. Elizabethan marriage was often more like a social contract, right? An economic, sometimes political alliance.
Absolutely. It was much more about securing wealth, social standing, family connections than necessarily about personal affection. Often, fathers arranged these things for the family's benefit. They were basically managing their daughters' futures and inheritances.
Young women with property, they didn't stay single for long, I imagine.
Rarely. Their assets usually transferred to their husbands upon marriage, making them valuable commodities in that patriarchal system.
And we see this playing out with Claudio and Hero's courtship.
Precisely. It's illustrated beautifully.
Yeah.
Don Pedro, he steps in as this sort of benevolent matchmaker, or maybe benevolent deceiver is more accurate.
Yeah.
He offers to woo Hero in disguise for Claudio at a masked ball.
Which seems a bit odd now, but okay.
Well, it leads to their swift engagement. It basically fast-tracks what would have been a more traditional drawn-out arrangement.
Yes.
And Hero, she offers very little resistance. Her role is just to be agreeable, accept her father's choice.
So this quick jump from a glance to engagement really highlights that pragmatic, almost transactional nature of noble marriages back then.
It really does.
Yeah.
Now, in stark contrast to this, well, frankly, somewhat appearance-driven romance,
Yeah, it does feel a bit superficial.
we get the absolutely exhilarating merry war between Beatrice and Benedict.
Ah, yes. The main event for many people.
Totally. Beatrice, Hero's cousin, she immediately stands out. She's a force of nature, sharp wit, independent spirit, really resistant to the pressure to get married.
She challenges those Elizabethan norms for women who were supposed to be, what, demure, silent, eager for a husband?
Exactly. And Beatrice is none of those things. She's certainly not the silent, obedient type.
And that's why we love her.
It is. It makes her so compelling, even now. And Benedict, her perfect foil, is just as firm in his anti-marriage stance. He famously calls himself a professed tyrant to their sex.
And vows to live a bachelor.
Until the world needs repopulating, basically. Their constant verbal sparring, these amazing wit combats, they are arguably the real heart of the play.
Even though the plot initially focuses more on Claudio and Hero.
Yeah, despite the script weight maybe leaning towards C and H initially, it's the electric dynamic between B and B that just grabs the audience and doesn't let go. It's pretty clear almost from the start that all that verbal sparring, that seeming hatred.
It's hiding something else.
Oh, absolutely. It's a complex, thrilling dance that barely conceals a deep underlying affection.
It's the absolute definition of the enemies to lovers trope, isn't it? They pretend to hate each other, using wit like a shield.
A coping mechanism, yeah. A way to save face, just in case the other person doesn't feel the same.
And the irony is, by denying it so fiercely, they end up looking kind of ridiculous, which just highlights how intense the connection actually is.
Their intense verbal energy. It screams deep-seated feelings, not real animosity. And as you hinted earlier, there's that fascinating little clue about a past romance between them.
Ah, yes, that line. It adds so much depth.
It really does. Beatrice says something like, Benedict lent it me a while, and I gave him use for it, a double heart for his single one. Marry once before he won it of me with false dice.
False dice. So cheating. Betrayal.
It strongly implies it, doesn't it? A broken trust, a past hurt, something went wrong. It leaves them both with some serious emotional baggage. You know, a lot of modern enemies to lover stories miss that kind of backstory.
Yeah, they often just start with dislike for no real reason.
Right. This once positive history makes their eventual getting together feel much more earned, more meaningful. You understand, their sharp tongues are just defenses against getting hurt again.
It definitely makes their dynamic richer, knowing there's history there, a reason for all that intense hate. But, okay, as the play moves on, we hit a much darker kind of deception.
Oh yes, insidious.
With truly disastrous consequences. It threatens to just unravel everything in Messina. And this is where Don John comes in.
Don Pedro's illegitimate brother. Profoundly melancholic. He's the primary antagonist.
And his motives seem villainous, but maybe rooted in something deeper.
Oh, he calls himself a plain-dealing villain. He says he can't hide his discontent. He's just fundamentally disinclined to mirth, finds no joy in anything, really. He's consumed by this melancholy.
And melancholy back then wasn't just sadness, was it?
No. It was seen as a whole physiological and psychological state, often linked with idleness, self-indulgence, plotting even. Well, demonic influence. Sometimes it was considered pretty dangerous.
So John is fueled by jealousy of Claudio's success.
Yeah.
And resentment about his own status.
Exactly. Jealousy of Claudio's glory, deep resentment about being a bastard, always on the outside looking in. He says he cannot hide what I am, just choosing to embrace the darkness.
And people back then would have seen him as responsible for his actions, despite the melancholy.
Pretty much, yeah. Early modern beliefs held people accountable for their malevolent actions, regardless of the emotional cause. You see his exclusion right away. Leonardo barely wants to welcome him.
Only does it because of Don Pedro.
Right. It shows how that kind of sadness and loneliness can just fester when it's shut out from the happy world.
And his plot against Hero is devastatingly effective because it taps right into those rigid ideas about female chastity and male honor.
Absolutely. He and his cronies, Braccio and Conrad, stage this scene at Hero's window. They make it look like Hero's entertaining a lover.
Even though it's actually her gentlewoman, Margaret, who doesn't even know she's part of it.
Right, making Claudio and Don Pedro believe Hero is disloyal, unchaste. The horror of it is its simplicity and how it exploits those deep-seated social anxieties. And Claudio, tragically, he's just so ready to believe the worst.
Which brings us to the wedding scene, the climax of this awful deception.
It's brutal. Claudio showing this disturbing impulsiveness, this lack of real judgment. He's just so easily fooled. Horrifyingly so.
He rejects Hero right there at the altar, publicly shames her, calls her a rotten orange, an approved wanton.
Words that would utterly destroy a woman's reputation back then, condemn her to social death, basically.
It shows the devastating impact on her honor, and on Leonato's status too. A woman's value was tied so tightly to her purity.
And a tarnished reputation, real or imagined, had severe, often irreversible consequences. Leonato is completely undone. He actually wishes Hero dead. Do not live, Hero. Do not ope thine eyes.
Just to remove the stain on the family name, it's chilling, even abandoning his own daughter.
It underscores just how unforgiving that Elizabethan code of honor was.
And what gets me is that Don Pedro, the guy who set them up, he backs Claudio's accusation without a single question.
It's infuriating, isn't it? But it highlights that powerful male code of honor, that camaraderie. It often just overrode reason, compassion, even basic fact-checking.
They believe what they think they saw.
Or what they were tricked into seeing. They don't dig deeper, don't question the source. It says so much about how fragile reputation was and how easily trust shatters when appearances trump truth.
Okay, but thankfully, this leads us towards benevolent deception, the path to fixing things.
Yes, thankfully. And it starts with Friar Francis. He seems the only one keeping a clear head through all the chaos.
He just instinctively believes Hero is innocent, despite all the evidence.
He does. And he comes up with this radical plan. Tells Leonato to pretend Hero is dead.
Whoa, okay. Why?
Well, it's a gamble, but it's meant to do two things. First, restore Hero's honor by symbolically killing off the stained reputation. Second, and just as crucial, it's designed to shock Claudio into realizing the terrible mistake he made, to force his remorse.
A deception designed for good.
Exactly, based on a deep understanding of human psychology, really.
And then, in a wonderful twist of Shakespearean genius, the truth gets uncovered by the most unlikely heroes imaginable.
Gogberry and the watch.
The comical constable, famous for his malapropisms, those wonderfully misused words.
Oh, they're fantastic, calling someone desertless instead of deserving.
Telling his men to suffer salvation instead of damnation, declaring an excommunication for an examination. It's hilarious. And it would have really landed with the ordinary folks in Shakespeare's audience who loved that kind of wordplay, even if it was wrong.
But despite being, well, comically incompetent.
Utterly incompetent.
They accidentally overhear Braccio boasting about the whole plot. They uncover everything.
And this is Shakespeare making a powerful point, isn't it? True heroism isn't about social class or fancy talk or being smart. It's about actions, integrity, just doing your job, however clumsily.
Truth from unexpected places, often from people who are usually ignored.
Exactly. Dogberry's ridiculous phrases often somehow stumble on a kind of truth, a hidden nugget, as you put it. His actions get results when the eloquent nobles fail completely.
It's a sharp contrast, isn't it? The educated nobility are blind, while the bumblers find the truth.
Precisely. So with the truth out, reconciliation becomes possible. Claudio, genuinely remorseful now, performs this public penance at Hero's tomb. Reads an epitaph, vows to honor her.
Showing some humility, finally.
Yes. And then Leonato, in a mix of forgiveness and maybe still controlling things a bit.
He orchestrates a second benevolent deception. He tells Claudio, as penance, he must marry a masked niece of his, supposedly Hero's cousin, sight unseen.
To prove he'll accept consequences, commit to loving the person, not just the appearance.
That's the idea, to show he's learned his lesson.
And of course, surprise, the masked niece is...
Hero herself, miraculously resurrected.
Classic Shakespeare.
It is. But it's not just a plot trick. It's symbolic. It restores her honor, cleanses her name, allows for this joyous, it's complicated resolution. It forces Claudio to accept her, not his idea of her.
And while all this drama is unfolding, Benedict and Beatrice finally get their act together.
And it feels so earned, so satisfying.
Their journey to love is also ironically helped along by another benevolent deception.
The famous gulling scenes. Their friends Don Pedro, Leonato, Hero, Ursula conspired to trick them,
making each believe the other is secretly, desperately in love with them.
They're some of the best scenes. Benedict overhears the guys talking about how much Beatrice supposedly loves him, and he has that incredible internal monologue. Love me, Why, it must be requited.
You can almost see the gears turning, his cynicism crumbling.
Totally. He's fighting his own bachelor vows. And Beatrice does the same. She overhears Hero and Ursula talking about his secret devotion, and she has her own moment. Contempt, farewell and maiden pride, adieu. And Benedict, love on, I will requite thee.
It's this fantastic, very human transformation, from proud denial to, well, reluctant acceptance.
They're sort of tricked into being honest with themselves, aren't they?
Exactly. And it all culminates in that final direct confession. Still witty, of course.
Oh, always. Benedict, I love thee against my will.
And Beatrice's perfect reply, in spite of your heart, I think?
It just sums up their whole journey. They acknowledge the love, but keep that spark, that banter. It shows their merry war was always a shield.
Protection against vulnerability, fear of rejection.
Right. And once that shield is down, thanks to the trick, the real affection that was always there can finally come out. It's authentic, resilient.
Okay, let's zoom in on these characters then, because their journeys, how they interact, that's what makes the play stick with you. Benedict starts as that classic cynical bachelor, right?
Absolutely. The professed tyrant, railing against marriage, thinks he's too clever for love.
But his transformation is just wonderful. After the gulling scene, you see these almost comical changes.
Brushing his hat, using perfume civet, showing signs of melancholy.
Which, back then, was a sign of being in love.
It was. But his shift isn't just falling in love, it's deeper. His character changes.
Yeah.
And the absolute peak is when he agrees to challenge Claudio, his best friend.
Kill Claudio for Beatrice's honor. That's huge.
It's a massive departure from that male loyalty code. He chooses integrity, Beatrice's honor, the truth, over the boys' club. And crucially, he respects female wisdom. He listens to Beatrice.
He really sees her. It's powerful.
Then there's Beatrice. Equally strong-willed, sharp-tongued, totally captivating.
Her wit, her disdain for marriage, so unusual for an Elizabethan woman. She refuses to be just a prize.
Definitely. And we find out, as you said, about that past thing with Benedict, they're not just sparring partners. They're like bitter exes with hang-ups.
That false dice line suggests betrayal, a real reason for her guardedness.
Exactly. Her wit is entertaining, but it's also a serious defense mechanism. And underneath it, there's real frustration about women's limitations, especially after Hero's shaming.
Oh God, that I were a man, I would eat his heart in the marketplace.
Such passion, such powerlessness. She can't physically seek justice in that society. Her journey is moving from that proud scorn to allowing herself to be vulnerable, admitting her love for Benedict.
Okay, Claudio. He comes across as, well, a bit naive, impetuous.
Yeah, the impetuous soldier. His love for Hero is instant, mostly based on looks and her reputation for virtue, maybe more infatuation than deep love.
And it proves really fragile, doesn't it?
Very. His instant belief in Don John's lies shows deep insecurity, how fragile trust can be. It's almost like he wants to believe the worst. Maybe fear of being tricked, fear of cuckoldry.
Which was a massive humiliation for men then.
Huge. His brutal public projection of Hero, full of that harsh language, shows the pressure on men to uphold honor, avoid seeming weak, even if it means destroying someone.
But he does get a redemption arc. His remorse seems genuine.
It does. He does the penance, accepts the unknown bride. He seems to earn Hero's forgiveness, showing he's willing to love her, not just her image.
And Hero herself, she's the Elizabethan ideal, right? Virtuous, silent, obedient, her value tied to purity.
She's a mirror of that patriarchal society. And her passivity when accused is heartbreaking. She just collapses, totally powerless.
Shows the limitations on women back then.
Absolutely. Her death, both literal plot-wise and symbolic, shedding the bad reputation, and her resurrection, they're needed to restore her honor, cleanse her name, get back the love unjustly taken. It highlights women's vulnerability to male judgment.
Then there's Don Pedro, the prince. Complex role. Starts as the helpful matchmaker.
Benevolent, yeah. Wants his friends happy. But he's also surprisingly, maybe foolishly, easy to deceive.
He buys Don John's slander against Hero instantly.
Which shows even nobles, people in power, can be misled, especially when male honor and assumptions about female weakness are involved.
His belief in the lie, even from someone obviously dodgy like Don John.
It's key. It shows how easily we believe what fits our biases or confirms our fears, how appearances can just steamroll the truth. Even power can be blind to reputation.
And Don John, the malign influence, the melancholy villain.
Who says he cannot hide what I am. His motive is simple but destructive. Disdain, jealousy from being an outcast, unable to find joy.
A fascinating study in just malice. He says he'd rather be a canker in a hedge than a rose in his grace. He rejects conforming.
Yeah, he can't be reasoned with. His isolation makes him this constant threat in the otherwise happy world. People mistrust him from the start. Leonardo's hesitation is telling.
He's the shadow that proves the light exists.
Well put. And finally, our unwitting heroes, Dogberry and Verges,
Masters of the malapropism, hilarious for the groundlings.
and their crucial role in accidentally uncovering the plot, despite their incompetence, makes that democratic point again. Important truths from unexpected sources.
From the least eloquent, least powerful people.
Shakespeare suggesting true heroism is about action, integrity, not status or smarts. Their bumbling investigation ironically works better than the noble's wisdom.
Dogberry's nonsense often contains that hidden nugget of truth. He gets there faster somehow.
It's a brilliant inversion, isn't it? The clowns hold the key. Which brings us right to the deeper meanings, the themes, starting with the incredible power of language and wit.
Yes, so central. You see it instantly with Benedict and Beatrice. Their banter is like a shield.
The sophisticated coping mechanism, yeah. Hiding true feelings, fear of rejection. It's banter, pretending to hate someone to cover embarrassment or save face.
And they look ridiculous doing it, which is part of the comedy.
Their wit is self-protection, controlling interactions, keeping guards up.
But language isn't just a shield, it's a weapon, too. Look at Don John.
Oh, absolutely. He twists language, spreads rumors, destroys heroes' reputation with words alone, fabricated stories, misinterpreted actions.
Shows how easily language can inflict pain, damage lives, especially in that honor-obsessed society. Gossip, slander, devastating.
And Shakespeare, the master linguist, packs the play with puns, wordplay, layers of meaning. That nothing pun is famous, but there's more.
Like noting, meaning observing or writing down.
Exactly. It sounds like nothing and links to misinterpretation, gossip. Braccio noted the scene. The watch must note things down. What's noted can become nothing, a rumor, or the very nothing causing the ado.
So clever. Appeals to everyone, the smart jokes and the cruder ones.
Creates that universal comedy. And you see how language use reflects character and class. Like euphemism, that elaborate style.
Leonardo uses it to sound noble, right? But his language breaks down when he's grieving over Hero.
Yes, his fancy talk crumbles under emotion, shows how rhetoric can reveal and betray feelings.
While the nobles, Don Pedro, Claudio, use sprezzatura, effortless rhetoric.
Right. Don Pedro sounds casually elegant, masking power dynamics. But Claudio, he's like a spoiled brat. His big speeches, like denouncing Hero, are stuffed with overwrought rhetoric.
Trying too hard.
Exactly. Unlike Don Pedro's easy style, Claudio's effort reveals his immaturity, insecurity, relying on performance.
And then Dogberry again. Thinks he's a language master, but it's all malapropisms, unconscious puns.
But despite the verbal mess, he has integrity. His actions expose the plot, proving heroism is about deeds, not words or class. The least articulate communicates the real truth.
Which leads right into that huge theme, deception. It runs through everything.
Both kinds, too. Deception for harm, deception for good, a nuanced look.
John's plot against Hero, malicious deception, pure and simple, highlights vulnerability, how fragile trust is.
And the idiocy, really, of Claudio and Don Pedro believing such a weak plan. It suggests they were ready to believe the worst. Maybe societal bias, maybe male honor codes.
Their quick belief shows how easily trust breaks when reputation is on the line.
But then you have benevolent deception. The contrast is powerful. The friends tricking Benedict and Beatrice.
The gulling. It's manipulation, but it forces them to face their feelings, leads to a real, honest relationship.
And Friar Francis's plan faking Hero's death. Another deception used for good. To restore honor, force Claudio's repentance. A risky move for a moral outcome.
Disguise and illusion are big, too. The masked ball at the start.
A literal demonstration. Identities hidden, allowing different interactions. Don Pedro woos for Claudio. B&B spar more freely.
Shows how appearances can deceive right from the beginning. A theme that echoes through the whole play.
Constantly asking, what's real? What's just appearance? How do we tell?
Especially crucial when thinking about honor and reputation. So central to Elizabethan life.
Absolutely. Social standing was tied directly to public image. Damage, and the consequences were severe. It was social currency.
And that stark double standard. Honor for men was about action, alliances. For women, mostly chastity, obedience.
Hero's shattered reputation, Leonardo's near madness over family honor, illustrates that pressure intensely. Hero, the ideal, has to symbolically die to cleanse the stain, only resurrected when proven innocent.
But Shakespeare pushes back too, subtly. Beatrice's defiance is one thing, but Benedict challenging Claudio.
Kill Claudio. That's revolutionary.
Yeah.
He rejects blind male loyalty, critiques the sometimes absurd violence needed for honor.
He chooses integrity, defending an innocent woman, true companionship over the code. It's a kind of modern male integrity.
Acknowledging female wisdom, vulnerability.
Yes.
Which brings us to maybe the most enduring theme.
Yeah.
Love's transformation.
Yeah. The contrast between Claudio and Hero's fragile, appearance-based love.
Which shatters so easily.
And the witty and modern relationship of Beatrice and Benedict.
Theirs develops through honesty, growth, rooted in affection that was there all along, despite the resistance.
Their journey from pretending to hate each other to admitting love against their will, it's the blueprint for so many romances.
It suggests their insults were coping mechanisms, protecting themselves. Once shed, real, resilient love flourishes. They teach us authenticity is key.
And connecting all this to today, Much Ado feels incredibly relevant, doesn't it? Maybe even more so now.
With instant communication, social media, absolutely. Its exploration of relationships, courtship, friendship, human connection, it still hits home.
That enemies to lovers thing, B&B, are the originals. You see it everywhere. Nick and Jess and New Girl. Ross and Rachel. The Proposal.
Countless examples. That dynamic where initial fighting masks deeper feelings, it just resonates. Maybe the person who challenges you most understands you best.
And the play is such a powerful reminder about miscommunication, perception, how easily people are swayed by gossip, appearances.
Hero's public shaming. It directly parallels modern issues with misinformation, rumors online, cancel culture.
Yeah, the power of reputation, how quickly things can unravel.
It screams for critical thinking. Question assumptions, seek truth. Don't just take things at face value. Hero's ordeal is a warning about how fragile reputation is against lies.
But Benedict and Beatrice's journey offers hope. Finding self-awareness, dropping the masks, embracing feelings.
It suggests true love might be where you least expect it, behind those defenses. But it needs honesty, vulnerability, authenticity is the foundation.
In Claudio's path to forgiveness, shows reconciliation is possible.
Right. The play doesn't ignore serious mistakes, but it offers a compassionate view. People can learn, repent, be accepted back. Second chances exist. Love can rebuild.
So, wrapping up our deep dive, we've seen Shakespeare explore deception, good and bad, different paths to love, societal pressures of honor, gender, and the incredible power of language.
This amazing play, so witty, so insightful, it really challenges us, doesn't it? Look beyond the surface, listen to the unspoken truths of the heart. The much ado about nothing is actually, well, it's much ado about something real and profound.
A universal story. Trust, vulnerability, connection.
Exactly.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? As we go about our own lives, how often are we making much ado about nothing, getting caught up in misunderstandings, our own defenses? Or maybe like the characters here, are we sometimes missing the something that truly matters? Those real connections, the truths that only emerge when we dare to be vulnerable, drop the masks, and really truly listen to the heart.